Yeah, buddy.
Hi, baby. Oh, you're so pretty.
My son. Hey, this is Matt O'Leary, and yeah, we're somewhere new. Yeah, so it's been a little bit crazy. I just got done moving, so I'm still kind of settling in, you know, just hauling heavy stuff for 2 days. Not the best, but I'm here. I'm not sure if this is going to be my permanent setup, but it kind of works for now, so let's do it. Over the past week or so, I've actually been giving myself and giving my ears a little bit of a break from listening to music. Not listening to nearly as much, not scouring the internet for new stuff, and not even really having records playing in the background. I actually realized that, you know, I'm kind of uncomfortable with silence at home. I always have something playing in the background. I think that's pretty typical for most people nowadays, but you know, I just always have something on, and I kind of get desensitized to it over time a little bit. So it's nice to take a break and just sit in that silence and relish it. That silence makes you appreciate music all the more, and when I came back to it, you know, I realized, you know, this is why I do it. This is why I love this, and this is why music is the coolest thing in the world. This video is, of course, albums at a glance for the month of July 2017, where I give these short little compact, abridged reviews of a bunch of new released albums. So let's start with Arcade Fire's Everything Now. I just started listening to this thing. I've given it a couple listens through, but you know, it's Arcade Fire, so I feel like it's a must. Everybody knows this band, you know, everyone's hype on this band, or at least they were. They're kind of past their prime now. They won that Grammy, so at least everybody knows the name. When I think of Arcade Fire, they really are the indie standard. Intelligent concepts and a rich and relatable rock sound. Everything Now has got a lot of connections to Reflector with a lot of dance and disco tunes like Everything Now, like Signs of Life, or like Electric Blue. It's not purely sugary pop. It does have some depth to it, as you'd expect from these guys. There's the Wilco-esque Infinite Content, or the downtrodden We Don't Deserve Love. So far, the album feels very front-heavy, but also pretty back-loaded. There was this section in the middle there where I sort of just lost interest a little bit. But there are some really biting phrases from Win Butler that definitely stick with you, and the band does a really good job of repeating these musical motifs across the album. Animal Collective member Avey Tare has a new solo album out called Eucalyptus. I liked moments from Enter the Slasher House's last one from 2014. It definitely had some much heavier drumming than anything Animal Collective related. It's funny to listen to Panda Bear's got this ultra tuneful Brian Wilson sound, and then switch to this guy's, which is very messy, very abrasive. You know, it just separates these ingredients of what comes together as a pretty magical recipe. This album is definitely gentler for him, but still pretty melodically devoid. Like, there's not much going on there as far as a solid tune to grab onto. I can get behind the experiments, but when that's not there, it's tough for me. Some moments remind me a lot of that new Fleet Foxes album Crack Up, like the song Miss Secret. That one's got a lot of these fourth intervals and then these huge dynamic and tempo shifts within the song, so I think that's where I'm getting a similarity there. UK producer Sam Shepard has a new album out. He goes by Floating Points, and this one's inspired by the Mojave Desert. It's called Reflections. His first album, Millennia, is this super unique, jazzy, electronic blend I go back to all the time. This one's definitely more ambient and slow to develop, but ultimately still very engaging and still like nothing you've heard before. There is some straight up 70s Pink Floyd stuff here, but interspersed are these rippling synths and this mesmerizing modular synth motif that keeps speeding up and then slowing down across the tracks. Next up is Lana Del Rey's new album, Lust for Life. My wife loves a lot of Lana's music, and there's no denying she's got some incredible vocal talent with this versatile 3-octave range. She can just flip up into that head voice with ease. I also really like the aspect of playing a character, which she's always doing in her music. You know, in pop music history, there's this tradition for the front woman or the front man or the lead singer to be giving a first-person narrative. for whatever they're singing to be a direct reflection of their own beliefs, their own experiences, and their own life. But that doesn't have to be the case. Inhabiting a character doesn't have to be reserved for the novelist. Unfortunately, Lana's skeevy character is as insufferable on this album as it's ever been. The more she talks to the press and the more interviews she does, the more I start to wonder if this really is a character at all. Maybe this is the real Lana. The Lana who paradoxically has one album called Born to Die and another called Lust for Life. The Lana who questions if this is the end of America on the song When the World Was at War, We Kept Dancing. The country that provided her all the freedoms to get her where she is today. And yeah, she compared the Trump era to the fall of Rome, that empire that decapitated Christians and fed them to lions as a spectator sport. But beyond the persona of Lana, there's the music, and there are some really beautiful melodies like On Love, like on Lust for Life featuring The Weeknd. But I've never thought her producers have done her voice any favors. This one's similarly comatose with tons of cold trap beats and these sleepy spy movie guitar tones. I think this album's a lot like processed meat, pretty enjoyable if you're not thinking about how it was made or the spirit or ethics behind the thing. Singer-songwriter John Stammers recorded this delicate, intimate little sophomore folk album called Waiting Around. It was recorded directly to tape, so you can hear those little imperfections, those little crackles. It's an album that wears its 60s and 70s influences on its sleeve, but every single song is memorable and contributes to this cohesive whole. There's plenty of tasteful detail too, like the hand drums on Woman, or the way the synth and the steel guitar sort of weave together on the song Risky Flowers. It's a very pretty album, but I think it's more than that. These are top-notch arrangements and instrumentation. One of the founding projects of Chill Wave, along with Tore et Moi and Neon Indian, was Washed Out, or Ernest Green, and his new album's out called Mr. Mellow. Chill Wave's a lot like Plunderphonics or other sample-based music, and that it's all about piecing these sounds and eras and retro vibes together into something fresh and new. There aren't too many outstanding highs on Mr. Mellow, but the flow's as pleasant as you'd expect from this genre. I love the disco feel of Hard to Say Goodbye or Get Lost, or those Latin samples on Floating By. Also some amazing bass lines on the songs Burnout Blues or Zonked. I feel like every single track has something interesting to offer. This is a solid one. The bassist of Vampire Weekend, Chris Baio, has his second solo album out called Man of the World. And man, this is just not my thing. This is synth pop, but with some of those Baroque touches you'd expect from a Vampire Weekend album. And this thing's just littered with bizarre samples and bizarre instrumentation choices, the worst of which has to be that I think it's a bass saxophone on the song Exquisite Interlude. Lyrically, there's no subtlety here. I mean, his anti-Trump rhetoric and climate change talk doesn't really add anything new to the conversation. Like the song's Philosophy, or Dangerous Animal, or Animal, or whatever it is. If it's in caps, does he want me to scream it? Anyway, he's saying the majority is tyranny and the waste of the world is palpable. There's almost so much external political focus and cynicism that it's really hard to take any personal reflection seriously. For me though, I think what really makes me cringe on this album is this very 80s David Bowie or Morrissey-esque voice. This is of course a subjective personal preference, but there are some times when this forced bravado just sends a chill up my spine because it's so awkward. I find myself vicariously embarrassed for the guy. Next up is that new Coldplay EP, Kaleidoscope, and just from that name and just from the album art, I could tell it was going to be more of that glitz and glamour over substance approach from their last album, which was truly awful, Head Full of Dreams. Really the only Coldplay album I don't like. But this is Coldplay. I like the band enough where I'm going to check out anything new. All I can think about is You hits us with this dusty Radiohead bass line and a delicious build in X and Y form. And boom, this thing hits with this anthemic outro like only this band can pull off. I wish the drums were a little more organic and raw, but it's way better than I expected, and honestly it's one of the best songs they've put out in a while. And that's pretty much the whole EP to me. The rest can be thrown away. It's a good song though, not White Shadows, not Death and All His Friends, but it surprised me. Next up is Waxahatchee's album Out in the Storm. Philadelphian Katie Crutchfield comes through with a breakup album. Her 90s alternative sound is very Built to Spill, very Dinosaur Jr. with a product that's remarkably consistent. And I really like the tight vocal harmonies that are almost running throughout. A couple lyrics really stand out to me, like on the verses of Never Been Wrong, where she's calling out this ex for their arrogance and trying to keep up appearances while in the midst of just unraveling. Ultimately, these cyclical melodies and 4-chord structures and standard alt-rock guitar tones end up feeling a little bit basic to me. She's obviously got a ton of talent, but this one's not challenging me and not stretching me in any way as a listener. Here we go, finally! We got the 4th EP from solo artist Amber Bain, who goes by the name The Japanese House. Not like personally, but you know, for this music thing. It's called Saw You in a Dream, and it's silky, smooth, much cooler than Urban Outfitters' Dream Pop. That's what we're working with here. It's like Beach House, but with a little bit more of a pop flavor and, you know, just a more trendy sound. And a little bit more interesting songwriting too. The epic closer Count to Nine's a highlight for sure. Just a jaw-droppingly beautiful track with some heavy synthetic vocal harmonies. Halfway through the track, everything stops and then slowly builds back up in dynamic with these sparkling synth layers that modulate pitch up and down. Percussion isn't all that muscular, but that would kind of distract from just the beautiful timbres and textures going on. That dense vocal harmony section is one of my favorite musical moments of the year so far. Alright, that's it. I'm hoping to review the new Steven Wilson or Grizzly Bear albums coming out real soon. Let me know what you think of these ones, and if you disagree or agree. Either way, I'm all ears. Thank you so much for watching.